to make progress in the path back to Godhead by listening, by hearing about His transcendental activities. That's why our actual bhakti starts by hearing. I mean, it starts by hearing, and then when we act upon it by our tongue and by rest of the senses, then we make progress. Text 12. Karmani asmin nashvase dhum dhumratmanam bhavam apyayati govinda pad padma savam madhu. We have just begun the performance of this fruitive activity, a sacrificial fire, without certainty of its result due to the many imperfections in our actions. Our bodies have become black from the smoke, but we are factually pleased by the nectar of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, Govinda, which you are distributing. So they, as we know, they had started this sacrifice, 1,000-year sacrifice, to at the beginning of Kali Yuga to purify Kali Yuga. But they are saying our bodies have become black from the smoke of the fire that we have lit. Means they are not sure, because there it says without certainty of its results. They are not sure if they're going to get the desired results from the sacrifice that they're performing in Naimisharanya. But because they are hearing the nectar of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, Govinda, they are very pleased. So for sacrifice, that's more or less it's a done deal, like it's not going to happen or it's not going to give them the desired result. The sacrificial fire kindled by the sages of Naimisharanya was certainly full of smoke and doubts because of so many flaws. So smoke also means doubts. And they had so many imperfections to perform that kind of yajna and sacrifice. First of all, one needs proper Brahmins who can perform, who can chant the mantras properly with the right meter, with the right pronunciation. And then was a proper or pure offerings, sacrificial offerings that are supposed to be made, havan samagri. And then the purity of place is very much required. Of course, they were sitting at Naimisharanya, so there was no problem. But everything has to be like pakka for the sacrifice to bear desired results. Everything has to be perfectly done. But Kali Yuga, that's a problem. And that's what these sages are saying, that there's so many imperfections in this yajna. We don't know if they're going to get the desired results. But just listening to the pastimes of Krishna, that will bring about more than the desired results. That's what they are very happy about. Any discrepancy in such sacrifices spoils the whole show, and the result is uncertain, like agricultural enterprises. The good result of tilling the paddy field depends on providential rain, and therefore the result is uncertain. Similarly, performance of any kind of sacrifice in this age of Kali is also uncertain. Unscrupulous, greedy Brahmins of the age of Kali induce the innocent public to such uncertain sacrificial shows without disclosing the scriptural injunction that in the age of Kali there is no fruitful sacrificial performance, but the sacrifice of the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So that is a real sacrifice. The sages of Naimisharanya were practically sufferers from the smoke of a sacrificial fire and were doubtful about the result. But by hearing from a realized person like Sud Goswami, they were fully satisfied. In the Brahma Purana, Vishnu tells Shiva that in the age of Kali, men full of anxieties of various kinds can vainly labor in fruitive activity and philosophical speculations. But when they are engaged in devotion service, the result is sure and certain, and there is no loss of energy. So that is the real sacrifice of congregational chanting of the names of the Lord or glories of the Lord. And then comes the one of the best verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this has been repeated as such also in Bhagavatam, and similar essence is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And now the sages are saying, Tulyam lavenapi na swargam na punarbhavam bhagvat sangi sangasya martyanam kimutashishaha. The value of a moment's association with the devotee of the Lord cannot even be compared to the attainment of heavenly planets or liberation from matter, and what to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity, which are for those who are meant for death. Although here it said Tulyam Laven Api. Laven means love matra. Similar words comes in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Kaye. Love matra, Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoye. And what is that love? Love matra is what? Although Prabhupada wrote here momentarily association. But that love, in terms of seconds, it is considered as 1/7 of a second. Even that much moment with the pure devotee, that much moment's association with a pure devotee is more than, here sages are saying, it's more than attainment of heavenly planets or liberation, and what to speak of worldly benedictions in the term of material prosperity. So this is the real benediction of meeting a pure devotee of the Lord. So why? Because just by meeting him for that much momentarily period, one's whole material life can begin to come to an end, because he can get the impetus to perform bhakti, he can get impetus to become serious about spiritual life, serious about getting out of the material life. That is the benediction, that is the benefit of meeting a pure devotee. When there are some similar points, it is possible to compare one thing to another. One cannot compare the association of a pure devotee to anything material. Men who are addicted to material happiness aspire to reach the heavenly planets like the moon, Venus, and Indraloka. And those who are advanced in material philosophical speculations aspire after liberation from all material bondage. When one becomes frustrated with all kinds of material advancement, one desires the opposite type of liberation, which is called apunar-bhava, or no rebirth. But the pure devotees of the Lord do not aspire after the happiness obtained in the heavenly kingdom, nor do they aspire after liberation from material bondage. So the pure devotees of the Lord, they do not desire either the material happiness in heavenly kingdom or merging in Brahma-jyoti. They say we don't want to care for that also. No liberation. In other words, for the pure devotees of the Lord, the material pleasures obtainable in heavenly planets are like phantasmagoria. Phantasmagoria means will of the wisp, or the flower in the sky. It means something that doesn't exist or exists just for a momentarily time period. And because they are already liberated from all material conceptions of pleasures and distress, they are factually liberated even in the material world. This means that the pure devotees of the Lord are engaged in the transcendental existence, namely in the loving service of the Lord, both in the material world and in the spiritual world. So pure devotees are always engaged in loving service here and after they leave the body in the spiritual world. As a government servant is always the same, either in the office or at home or at any place. So a devotee has nothing to do with anything material, for he is exclusively engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. Since he has nothing to do with anything material, what pleasure can he derive from material benedictions like kingship or other overlordships? which are finished quickly with the end of the body. Devotional service is eternal. It has no end because it is spiritual. Therefore, since the assets of pure devotee are completely different from the material assets, there is no comparison between the two. So, pure devotee does not, or not necessarily, he might have material assets, but he has those spiritual assets, which can never be taken away. But the material assets, even if one goes to heaven, once the bank balance of pious activities are over, then he has to leave and come back here again. Even if one gets liberated, merges in Brahmjyoti, now according to Bhagavatam, he has to fall back in the material world and start from that point onwards. But one who reaches the spiritual planet, he does not take birth again. Means that is the permanent asset. Suta Goswami was a pure devotee of the Lord, and therefore his association with the rishis in Naimisharanya is unique. In the material world, association with gross materialists is veritably condemned. The materialist is called Yoshat Sangi, or one who is very much attached to material entanglement, women and other paraphernalia. Such attachment is conditioned because it drives away the benediction of life and prosperity. And just the opposite is Bhagavad Sangi, or one who's always in the association with the Lord's name, form, qualities, etc. Such association is always desirable, it is worshipable, it is praiseworthy, and one may accept it as the highest goal of life. So that association is what one should hanker after. In fact, just reading this purport, one pastime just comes to my mind. When Srila Prabhupada was traveling by plane, so his two servants were sitting with him. So Prabhupada was at the window seat and two servants were in the middle seat and one at the aisle seat. So plane was, it had taken off. So devotees, when they would travel with Prabhupada, so the devotees who would come to see them off, they always would give some prasadam for Prabhupada to have on the plane. So Shrutkirti Prabhu, he was sitting at the aisle seat, so he opened a bag of puffed rice, which devotees had made, muri, which is called. So he served Prabhupada on a plate some puffed rice. So Prabhupada had some, and he then gave it back for his servants to have. So Shrutkirti Prabhu said that we both, me and other devotee in the middle seat, we were enjoying this movie. And just then a flight attendant passed by. And she just saw them eating this muri, puffed rice. And she just, this is completely unprofessional according to their standard. She just put her hand in that bag of muri and she just ate one handful of that muri. And she said, wow, that looks interesting. And she ate. And then she said, it's very tasty. And then she was serving in the aisle and then she came back and she asked them, I think Prabhupada's prasadam had acted on her. And she asked them if they need something. And Shrutkirti Prabhu asked Prabhupada, do you need anything? Prabhupada said, yes, I would like to have some hot milk. So that lady, she said, we don't have it here, but she went to the business class and got a full cup of hot milk for Prabhupada. And Prabhupada had that hot milk. And then Prabhupada and the devotees, when they came to the destination, they just went to wherever they had to go. So Shrutkirti Prabhu said, he was really surprised how this lady acted and how she got the mercy of Prabhupada. She just put her hand in the bags from which Shrutkirti Prabhu was eating, and then she just ate. And then Shrutkirti Prabhu, he was telling us, because he would go, and he still does, he goes to different temples, because he had served Prabhupada personally. And so he would go to different temples, different congregations, different classes to tell people about Prabhupada, his experiences of Prabhupada. So then he was telling that some devotees in South America, because devotees would always go for book distribution. So they were traveling and doing book distribution here and there. Somehow they ended up in some remote area, so they could not find even any house over there. And so they were just driving, and they were tired. They wanted to have some water or something. But finally, they saw one house. They knocked on the door, and one lady opened, old lady, and they just introduced themselves. They were in dhoti kurta, so they just introduced themselves that we are with this Hare Krishna movement. And we were passing by, and would you like to have some books? And the lady then invited them inside. So they both went in, and then the lady showed she had her whole almirah full of Prabhupada's books, and she had an altar. And they were surprised how in the middle of this place where no devotee comes, how come she is doing all this? She said, many years ago I was the flight attendant and I happened to eat your Guru Maharaj's Mahaprasad. And she knew all about Mahaprasad, what is Mahaprasad, what is this and what is that. And she didn't have any association of devotees ever since. Only thing, she bought the books somehow, and then she was reading and chanting and performing with all the services. So this can happen with just one moment's association with the pure devotee. He can surcharge us with filled with bhakti. This is amazing. This is a really amazing story. But at the same time, one has to be receptive also, because so many people came in touch with Srila Prabhupada. Not everybody became a devotee, or at least not in this lifetime. Maybe next lifetime or some other time they will come because they had met Prabhupada. But one has to be receptive also. One has to have that kind of agyat sukriti to give him that impetus. But pure devotees association can transform a person just like that. It's not a big deal. And this is what the sages of Naimisharanya saying, the lavenapi, lavena 1/14 of a second, even that much is good enough to convert a person, to transform a person's heart. So, anyway, so we'll stop here. See anybody has any question or comment? Very well. So what to do? Should we take one more verse then, if nobody has a question?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji, please.
Okay, so text 14. Ko nam tripyed rasvit kathayam mahattam ekant parayanasya nantam gunanam gunasya jagmur yogeshwara ye bhavatma mukhya. The personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, Govinda, is the exclusive shelter for all great living beings, and his transcendental attributes cannot even be measured by such masters of mystic powers as Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. Can anyone who is expert in relishing nectar rasa ever be fully satiated by hearing topics about him? So Krishna's transcendental attributes cannot even be measured by such masters of mystic powers as Shiva or Brahma. So this is conclusion of the sages of Naimisharanya. And people are still fighting who is greater, Shivji or Brahma, Krishna. Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma are two chief of the demigods. They are full of mystic powers. For example, Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison of which one drop was sufficient to kill an ordinary living being. Similarly, Brahma could create many powerful demigods, including Lord Shiva. So they are Ishvaras, or the lords of the universe, but they are not the supreme powerful. The supreme powerful is Govinda, Lord Krishna. He is a transcendence, and his transcendental attributes cannot be measured even by such powerful Ishvaras as Shiva and Brahma. Therefore, Lord Krishna is the exclusive shelter of the greatest of all living beings. Brahma is counted amongst the living beings, but he is the greatest of all of us. And why is the greatest of all of the living beings so much attached to the transcendental topics of Lord Krishna? Because he is the reservoir of all enjoyment. So everybody is attracted towards Krishna. Everyone wants to relish some kind of taste in everything, but one who is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord can derive unlimited pleasure from such engagement. The Lord is unlimited, and his name, attributes, pastimes, entourage, variegatedness, etc. are unlimited. And those who relish them can do so unlimitedly and still not feel satiated. This fact is confirmed in Padma Purana. The mystics have derived unlimited transcendental pleasures from the Absolute Truth, and therefore the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Ram. Like Tulsidas ji also says, no? Hari Ananta Hari Katha Ananta. Kaho Snaho Sab Bahu Vidhi Sabasanta. Means Hari is Anant, he is unlimited, and his Katha, his pastimes, his attributes, everything is unlimited. There is no end to such transcendental discourses. In mundane affairs, there is a law of satiation, means everybody gets bored after a while. But in transcendence, there is no such satiation. Sud Goswami desired to continue the topics of Lord Krishna before the sages of Naimisharanya. And the sages also expressed their readiness to hear from him continuously. Since the Lord is transcendence and his attributes are transcendental, such discourses increase the receptive mood of the purified audience. So here Prabhupada clears it up. It increases the receptive mood of the purified audience. So the audience have to be also of that caliber, of that quality, that they can receive it properly. And once you receive it, then like Shukdev Goswami, when he starts speaking and Parikshit Maharaj is listening and the rest of the audience listening, 7 days, 7 nights. No getting up, no sleeping, no eating, nothing. For 7 days and 7 nights. So this is how relishable these topics are. But we can also only relish them to a certain extent because we are not pure yet. So more purification happens, more we will enjoy, more we will relish. And that is bhakti. Bhakti means how we measure our progress in bhakti is when we have more affinity, when we develop more affinity for chanting, for hearing, for service, for association, we have more and more affinity. We just want to do it. It's spontaneous. We want to do it. In the beginning, it's like we have to do it. Later on, we need to do it because somebody is forcing us. And then we want to do it. And then we love to do it. So that is how we make progress, how we measure our progress in bhakti. So anyway, now we will stop here, definitely. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Arthur. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Hare Bol.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
I know you